Rowan, and I'm a massage therapist here in Houston, Texas, and we're doing a review of the movie Chef, and to see what we can learn. This course is being offered for CEU. I figured it out to be about a 3 hour CEU. It's an hour and smidge time to do the video. We'll be on this hangout for about 30 minutes, and then there's 30 minutes to take the quiz and to also think about practical application. So that'll put us right about 3 hours. So if at the end you decide you need a massage therapy CEU for the state of Texas, I only have it in the state of Texas for right now, then what will happen is that there'll be a quiz that you can take, and with the quiz you'll submit some cash in when you take the quiz, and that also the quiz will be about the movie, about what we talk about right now, about the handout that comes along with this course, and then you'll fill out the quiz, put your money in, and I will send you back your massage therapy CEU with your number, and I will keep a track of who's taken this course for about 2 years. If I need to give you another certificate, then it will be another $5, $10, something like that, and a reprint fee, and we'll go from there. All right, so hang on to your certificate, even if you keep it in an e-file, but if you need a copy, I'll be able to give you one. And let's go ahead and start up. Okay, so far we have one person in the group, and it's super convenient because it's my friend Marcy, who does a bunch of cool stuff with me. Thank you, Marcy, for being here. And wanted to ask, well, let's review how webinars work. First of all, if you're watching this live, as you are, Marcy, then go ahead and type any questions you might have into the chat box on the right hand side. I won't be able to hear you. You'll only be able to communicate by putting your information in the chat box on the side. Okay? So as you think of them, put them there, and there's a little bit of a lag time. So I'm teaching, and you're probably getting this about a minute behind me. So um, so as I'm teaching this, you're getting it about a minute behind me. And so I'll have to loop back around. So I'll be teaching, and then you'll put your question in, and then I will keep up. Oh, and don't send funny jokes to like screw with me. Oh, friends, that's what it's about. Okay, so the movie Chef. I originally got interested in the movie Chef because I'm really fascinated with food trucks, and they were one of the first things that I thought social media was banging with. I have a couple of friends who have food trucks, and I wanted to have a snow cone truck about 6 years ago. In the state of Texas, especially Houston, food trucks got deregulated about maybe 6 years ago, 5 years ago, and I was just super pumped about them. And I was dating somebody at the time named Bobby, and I thought, you know what? Let's set up a snow cone truck because Bobby loves snow cones, loved it. And I live in Houston in kind of the gay part of town, and I thought we'll set up a snow cone truck called Bobby's Balls. We will make so much money. And Bobby was not interested in this at all. But because I'm chronically interested in business and interesting business and marketing, I'm like, no, we're going to make just so much money. And the idea never any traction. The relationship didn't work out. Okay. But with that, I've always been fascinated because I'd already done the mental exercise of how to run a food truck and how to market it, right? The neat things about food trucks is that they're not stuck in one place. They're moving around. So how are we going to create that like kind of buzz? But the other part of the food truck is unlike a brick and mortar, you can drive that all over the place and like be just advertising for yourself. In fact, you might have seen sometimes they have like billboard trucks that will go and drive and sit in traffic and just like they pay people to drive through traffic with these billboard cards to get some visual notice. So anyway, I loved the idea of this movie Chef. I was excited about it. And about myself, my name is Rowan Two Sisters. You can go to rowan2sisters.com and see that I'm a massage therapist and massage therapy instructor here in Houston. And I've been in business about 20 years, and I've been teaching, I think, for almost 10 years. So I'm interested in massage CEUs that aren't boring and aren't a snooze and can help you improve your business, but in a fun and engaging way. One of the things I find most irritating is when I go and the CEU is terrible. terrible. So I didn't want to have that. So that's what I thought. Well, let's see what we can learn from social media, and let's see what we can learn from traditional media, like movies, if you want to call that traditional. Like, let's see what we can learn from all sorts of different ways, and not just in a lecture format. I thought it was convenient to be able to sit and watch here from your home and watch this on YouTube or whatever, to be able to deliver it to you in a way that's comfortable and exciting to you. You can even listen to it on your way to and from work, or when you're stuck in the car. I call that drive time university. That's a lot of time to be sitting there and not be learning something. So if you're listening to this on your phone or streaming it while you're driving, great. That's perfect. Drive time university. Perfect. Okay, so Chef Carl Casper, that's the main guy in the movie, and so we're going to kind of talk about him and his adventures in the movie Chef. If you haven't seen the movie yet, feel free to listen to this webinar and then go to rowan2sisters.com, and there's a link in the description box underneath this for YouTube, and it'll point you to the direction on my website where you need to get your handout, where the quiz is, and a link to where you can stream the movie. I think through Netflix or something like that. We'll have it set up for you. So that's the part now. So Chef Carl Casper, and Marcy, feel free to jump in. How does he seem to feel about his job right in the beginning? Because in the beginning of the movie, you see this like kind of cool guy who's like kind of just beat down, and he doesn't have a lot of, like, you can tell that he goes to the farmer's market, he likes different things, but he's just kind of lost the pep. He doesn't have any self esteem. His self esteem is really low. And as body workers, when our self esteem is tanking, then our work tends not to be as good, because what are we doing? We're touching people with our hands. So it's super important to feel connected and feel good about ourselves when we do our work. And we can see that in Chef Carl Casper, that I'm not surprised that some of his foods things are falling flat. The one thing, he's working on a pig right in the beginning. Sorry, my vegetarian vegan friends. But you can tell he likes his staff and he gets along, but he also seems a little bit out of place in the fancy restaurant. He has, tattoos, which I'm personally a big fan of, but he maybe is a little bit, I don't know, rough for that kitchen. It's kind of a high-end, fancy kitchen, and he doesn't really seem to be in his jam. That's kind of what I noticed, you know. And even though it looks like he totally loves his staff, you can tell there's a warmth for each other. He's not especially in the same page with his boss. Mars, what did you think about when his what was your impression? I guess is what I'm asking. Like, where did he seem most at home? And one time, a business coach told me that when we're in a job situation, we never quit because of the money. We usually quit about the people. And at first I was like, how is that even like real? Like, I was, I didn't think so. And then I thought about a situation where I was working where I like loved the people, and I was making, I don't know, like $8 a class or whatever. Um, and then like I had like this just intense dissatisfaction with where I was working. Like there was a personality switch, and I just was so unhappy all of a sudden. I was like, screw this crappy job. I hate this place. Where, before I'd really dug it. And so it was never about the money. It was about the people. It was about the people. So we can see that the people that he enjoys working with, in his kitchen, like that's enough. But he does seem to hate the actual job part of interacting with a restaurant owner and that type of thing. The business coach that I refer to is Madison Gray, and she has a book called the Motivation Myth. That's what it is. I think it's madisongray.com, Madison with a T. And so she was the one who taught me that, about that it's not the people, or that's not the money, it's the people. Okay. So Mars has chimed in and says that he loves being a chef, but he hates his job. Totally true. So this is our second question. When Carl is getting ready for the food blogger to come in and Reva says, I can help guide you, I think like everybody in the theater had this like sinking feeling. Because really, Reva, the coach, he's got very different objectives than what Chef Carl Casper has. Reva he's all about the revenue stream, and delivering what he always, don't vary it. If things are working just like they are, then don't switch it, don't do anything, just stay the same, right? Where Carl's more about innovation and things about growing and pleasing and trying new things, right? So when Reva says, right, when Reva says that I can help guide you, really what he's saying is we're going to do it my way. I'm not interested in your creativity. I'm here for the profits, and you really need to do what I say. And it's hidden at that point, but that's essentially what he's saying. And then I think the third thing that I want to say is when Carl is talking with his staff, like, okay, well, this is what we're going to serve. Even though they got all excited about this whole other menu, he was pumped. He's like, okay, well, this is what we're going to serve. And he started acting like it was okay. Was anybody really buying that? Was anybody buying that it was going to be okay? And that it was going to go well? Like, we could see that he just, like, once again, he had that kind of just crushed, employee of not being able to shine in his capacity. Oh, Marcy's chimed in that the people were everything to him and that brought out his creativity in the kitchen. Yeah, you can see that dynamic, right? With the staff, that it's super dynamic and it's fun and that they're better together. Okay. Well, okay. And so after Carl has a kind of crappy experience with the food blogger, then he sends his food out and he gets that horrible review. There's this one scene with the marionette, and it's like you can just see this like look on his face when the marionette is playing, and or the guy's playing and he's doing the marionette, and then his son is with him, and he's in like this whole nother world, and it's like this. I think that is one of the best scenes of the movie, and I'm wondering at what time have you been the marionette where you've totally been moved around and pulled to other people's whims and not being able to do your best work, right? So when have you been the marionette? Mars, ever been the marionette? Anything that's ever happened like that? I think for myself, you know, one of the things about being an entrepreneur and a massage therapist is that I'm pretty much unemployable for anybody else. And I was talking to a couple of friends yesterday who are also body workers. One's an esthetician and one's a body worker. And like, we just don't employ well with other people. We're driven, we'll stay up all night, we'll do whatever it takes, but we want to work for ourselves. And in that point, like, if whenever I worked, like, I used to work for Houston Community College as an educator in the massage department, and I would get directions on how on to do something. I'm like, really? You want to do that? You think that's a good time, a good investment of our time, or who made that idea up? And what that taught me is that I am my best own employee. That I am my best own employee. And any other time I feel like somebody's kind of jerking my string and that I'm not um that when people are jerking my string, like I don't do my best work. And I think that's kind of how he felt in the marionette. So one of the questions on the quiz to get the CEU will be, or to the CE credit, will be, when have you felt like a marionette? And are you really more of an employer or an employee or an entrepreneur? Right? So an entrepreneur works for ourselves. And entrepreneurs aren't always that great a boss to anybody but ourselves either, right? But maybe your jam, maybe you're working for a high-end spa, or you're working at Massage Envy or something. And so maybe being an employee feels really comfortable to you, right? And like the thought of going out on your own or anything like that is really kind of intense and terrifying. So this is a good time to check in. Where do I fit in this? Am I, would I feel like a marionette if somebody was telling me what to do? Or would it feel comfortable and like, oh, okay, great. So you'll handle the worry and the stress and I'll just, cook in the kitchen. Oh, okay. So Marcy's saying about the marionette that she absolutely loved that scene and that it was his son. And I had forgotten that part, that his son pulled him away from that puppet and then ultimately did guide him to that future. And the son is a big point, and we're going to talk about that. Percy is his name. Okay, so number 5 is, who did Chef Carl Casper really want to be cooking for? Who did he really want to be cooking for? Did he want to be cooking for the people who come in and have the same thing every Friday night, like my dad and his wife Betty? They're lovely people, but their groove is to have pizza night on Friday, man. They want to have themselves pizza, and they want to have it from the same place, and they'll probably have the same pizza with the same side salad, and that's their jam, and that's really comfortable for them. And that's not maybe the best fit for Chef Carl Casper. He wants to be someplace that where he's like trying different stuff and trying new flavors, and people are interested, and it's kind of a buzz, and it's interesting, and let's do interesting cocktails, and just a little bit edgier than the fancy folded napkin, and kind of you know Friday's pizza night. Okay, so I made my note here was that when Chef Carl Casper is thinking about who is he really cooking for, it's a creative versus business tension, right? So Riva wants him to have a certain business, a certain say serve the same thing. Let's not be risky. Where he wants to really be creative, and as long as he's in business for somebody else, I feel like Chef Carl Casper was going to have that constant chronic tension within him about trying to subvert who he is in order to get his bills paid. And obviously, he's had some personal stuff because he's living in this little apartment that is 95% kitchen and 2% bed there. Um, so he's always going to have that tension as long as he's not working for himself. But we see his ex-wife's lavish place and then his little dumpy place, and so there's nothing wrong with it. But it's just a big shift from maybe what he was having. So we can see that he's in a kind of a scarcity mindset also, and a scarcity mindset is that there's not going to be enough, that I'm not going to be able to provide for myself, and so he's got a scarcity thing going on, I've just got to do whatever I can to pay the bills. But we can see that when he lets his freak flag fly with John Leguizamo and doing some interesting fun stuff, that and shopping from the chef scenes at the farmers markets, that he absolutely you can see him light up more. Oh, Cuban jazz on the radio. Yeah, he that was true. I didn't notice that. Oh, thanks, Marcy. That in the restaurant scenes, I think that's what you say. You're saying that there was Cuban jazz music, and very flavorful music, very flavorful experience. When you see Reva come in, it's like all the oomph comes out. All right. Who here has a Twitter account? I know that I do, and I'm at Urban Curandera. So it's URBAN, and then Curandera, CURANDERA. So at Urban Curandera. So if you just find me on there, if you follow me, I'll follow you back. But who here has a Twitter account or is experienced with Twitter? And if you don't, then I'll just give you a little 411. And Marcy, if you have a Twitter account, put your thing, your handle. It's called a handle. I'll put mine in the box for you. So Twitter is interesting. It was one of the first social media platforms that came along, and that was not really LinkedIn. I think was around at the same time, and LinkedIn was for business professionals who are connecting, and let's show each other that we can resume type stuff. And then MySpace was for adolescents, in there posting their pictures, and I used to call that email light. I didn't really catch on. And then Twitter came along, and you could put in 143 characters, I believe. So it wasn't like you could have long diatribes. It was really short. And then I remembered when you could put a picture in, and that was like, ooh, check it out, right? You could put your picture in your Twitter account. You could, oh, and when you when you write and post something on Twitter, it's called a tweet. Okay, so when you could tweet a picture, that was really exciting news. And now you can put all sorts of social media linked together. And I mostly work a lot off of Instagram. I like that a lot. But I don't think Instagram was around when this occurrence of this movie came on. And I thought it was supposed to be based after a real situation, but that wasn't reflected in the IMDb, which is the Internet Movie Directory something. Okay. So when you're working in Twitter, oh, Marcy is at Marcy Basile. Okay, good. Marcy, I'll follow you. So when you put something on Twitter, it's called a tweet. It's limited to 143 characters, and it's a real-time stream and not filtered in theory by the platform. So what that means is when people are tweeting something, it's like boom, 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 boom. And there's a lot of interaction back and forth. And unlike Facebook that has an algorithm, so I have 1,700 friends on Facebook. Feel free to friend me. Happy to be your friend. Send me a note telling me why, but let me know that you saw my video. But on Facebook, they're only going to let you see a certain amount of people that you consistently interact with, right? And you can try and circumnavigate that. If you have a professional page, you can boost your posts, things like that. But overall, you're not going to see, I don't see all 1,700 of my friends what they post, right? I see like the same 15 people over and over again, and people that I don't even really know why, but like, oh, I met you 3 times, yet I see every post you make. Okay. So Twitter's not like that. It's more back and forth, real time. And if you want to bitch about something, go on to Twitter because, and I'll talk about hashtags in a minute. But um, Twitter, like a lot of people manage their own. So like, unlike a Facebook page or whatever that has, like maybe people, like celebrities aren't managing that. A Twitter feed, a lot of times, like, who got mad? Somebody got mad at, oh, Southwest Airlines. Okay, that's not a professional, but a friend of mine had a terrible experience with Southwest Airlines and sent them all these like tweets and got some like kind of fire going underneath it. And they were all about, oh, let me fix that. So if you need something fixed or you need to have a customer service complaint, Twitter is absolutely a great way to put where to put something. Or say that you wanted to ask a celebrity, like Amanda Palmer, she mans her own Twitter account, so you can see interact with her if you had a question. And a lot of times celebrities get a lot of questions, but if you have hopes of direct contact with somebody, that's the way to do it. Twitter, as opposed to like a Facebook page where it's more like one way. Um, let's see what else we have. LinkedIn, that's more professionals connecting. Instagram, I love me some Instagram. And Instagram, you can see corporations that have Instagram pages, but it's a lot more real too. So at the time of this movie, Twitter was one of the biggest and heftiest social media platforms. And what Twitter did is the obviously, and I've had this my own experience when I first started making appointments with through texting. Somebody texted me, "Hey, can I see you on 3 o'clock on Friday?" And I spent like 30 minutes tapping my text out, and then I put it down. I remember this. I put it down on the table and went into the kitchen, and I heard it like make a noise, and I thought, "Oh, my text didn't go through," and she'd already texted me back, so it was like that fast. I was like, "Oh, I guess this texting thing is going to take off, right?" So same thing. Chef Carl Casper has about that same level of social media competency and working with his phone. So what happens is that he sees the reviews and he flips out. He flips out. He sees the reviews and he just thinks about it more. And fuck Twitter, fuck Twitter. We hear that 3 or 4 times. Fuck Twitter. And even his son is like, don't worry about it, Dad. But he has his son set up a Twitter account for him, right? And so then when he doesn't understand social media or on Twitter, and you'll see this sometimes on Facebook or Twitter, people like will post kind of weird things and you're like, did you mean that to go to everybody? But he thinks he's writing a direct response to the food blogger, and instead he broadcasts that out to everybody, but he includes the handle of the food blogger. So this ensures that everybody sees it, including the food blogger, who then retweets it. So a retweet is when somebody sends you something and then they tweet it out again. They do it again. They share it again. And that's, I think the food blogger had like a cajillion followers. So that's how overnight Chef Carl Casper got something like his 1653 followers. I just want to say that when you're in Twitter, you need to use the ampersand sign. If you're writing a tweet, you use the ampersand, which is like the little A squiggle business, and then somebody's handle, which is their name on Twitter, and that will make sure that it flags them that when they get on Twitter next, or they might have it set it up for notification, which means it might email them or like the phone might ding or something. But if you include that ampersand with somebody's name, that's how it goes into the Twitter feed and let somebody know that you've written something directly to them. So I just wanted to be clear about that. Oh, so hashtags. A hashtag is kind of a way to search information. And this is like terminology we're talking about, specific for Twitter and social media. So a hashtag was started on Twitter and it's the pound sign, or the pound sign. And it's interesting, you can see it's interesting that you can see when people who are maybe younger than like 22, I was working at a produce co-op and I was saying something about having to weigh your produce. And then they're like, well, how do you know? And I'm like, well, either has the E or the pound sign. And they're like, I don't see the pound sign. And I'm like, it's right here. And they're like, oh, the hashtag? I was like, well, before hashtags, we called that a pound sign. And that meant how much something weighed in pounds. And they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I was like, oh my God, I'm getting old. Okay, so a hashtag is the pound sign and then a phrase or a subject or a topic. So, like right now, I'm in Houston, Texas. And so, if I was going to do something on Twitter, I would say, oh, I'm doing a webinar, and I might use the hashtag webinar. And then I would do the hashtag Houston, right? And so, if somebody wanted to search on Twitter and they put in the hashtag of Houston, then I would come up that I was doing this. It would come up in a list of other people who are doing stuff in Houston. It's fun to play with hashtags. Like there's a huge music festival here called the Houston Free Press Summerfest. Free Press Summerfest, that's what it is. And so it's Free Press FPSF, I think. So you can put that hashtag in, and if you're not, if you got another browser window up, put it up. So it's Houston Free Press Summerfest. So it's free FPSF, so the pound sign and then those letters, and then put it up there, and you will see all sorts of pictures come up, because what's happened is hashtags are no longer stuck in one social media platform. And a social media platform means like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook. So if you put in your browser bar the hashtag for the Free Press Summerfest, you will see all these pictures that people have posted on all these different social media sites. But it's become like a live media thing, like maybe not live, but like a real time or a community based media. And so like I was seeing pictures of Iggy Pop, like really close, like people, just kids with their phones. So it's really fun to kind of explore. Another hashtag you can put in is remember, it's the pound sign, and you can put this right in your browser bar of your computer. But you can do the Hottie Hoop Camp, which is a camp that I host with my friends and my sister every summer. And so it's hashtag or pound sign Hottie, HOTTIE, and then hoop, HOOP, and then camp, CAMP. And with a hashtag, you just run the whole thing in one sentence. You don't. There's no breaks, no spaces. So Hottie Hoop Camp, and then you'll see all these fun pictures of women hooping and bikinis and parasols and dress up. And we have a baby that we glued some false eyelashes on like this to make eyebrows. So like you'll see all these fun pictures, right? So that's what a hashtag is. So the two I encourage is a Free Press Summerfest and then Hottie Hoop Camp, so that you can check those out. But that's how a hashtag works. Okay, what is going viral? And Marcy just brought this up. Going viral on a social media site is when something catches on. And a lot of times it's like cat videos. Marcy, if you have any ideas of things that have gone viral recently that are positive, because negative news stuff is hot right now. There's a lot of rough stuff going on, and those videos are going viral. But I'd like to keep it positive. So let's see, something that's gone viral lately. Trying to think. I'm sure something will come up. Maybe Marcy has something, but you have it, and you'll see your friends sharing it on social media, and you'll share it on social media, and you're like, oh, I've seen that 7 times. Like a meme will go viral sometimes, but viral is when people see it, they identify with it, and then they reshare it. That's something viral. And there's people who work in large companies where that's their job, is to come up with ideas for videos and pictures that can go viral as a way to share advertising. Okay, so when something organically goes viral, it just kind of spontaneously goes viral by itself, which is what happened with Carl Casper, that he sent that note back to the food blogger, and he thought it was just them, and then like it went viral. Everything went bananas. And then the other piece here is that when Chef Carl Casper goes and like flips out at the food blogger, there's all these people there with their phones taking pictures of the chef going bananas on the food blogger. And what happens? That goes viral. So now it's like this viral shitstorm of what's going on with this guy's life. But it was like everybody was there with their phones to capture the video on whatever social media platform, mostly Twitter at that point. And that's what going viral. It just gets shared and reshared, and it gets bigger, and then they share it, and then they share it again, and then they shared that you shared. And so that's what going viral is. Okay. And so I want to talk about when all those Twitter people. Oh, oh, Marcy just said that Kim Kardashian's butt went viral. That's true. So Kim Kardashian took a picture with her, I guess her butt. Like I remember, like she was like naked or something, and it was like very baby oily like looking, and it was a great looking butt. But people went like just crazy over her butt, and she shouldn't have done it, or she should have done it, or whatever. So that's an example of going viral. And something that's interesting is that that was modeled after a photo shoot done about 20 years ago with Grace Jones and somebody else. And then that went viral, the comparison, and then um, the talking about racism or not racism, or like subjugation and all this stuff. So that also went viral. So that's how something that starts here can then get compared with this, and then we have critiques of that, and then we have to talk about that. We have to talk about those people who are critiquing, like it just goes viral. Okay. When those folks who were that were packing the house on the second night after the flame war. And when a flame war is when people start saying things back and forth to each other, that's flaming. And then when you flame each other, that's a flame war. So think flame, hot, fiery, flame, on fire. Okay. That when the people showed up to the restaurant, what were they expecting? Were they expecting the same food as the night before? No. What were they expecting? Something new and dynamic? And you can even look at the energy of the crowd from the first night to the second night. The first night was like kind of, regular folks, and then the next night was, people, it was a little bit glittery, it was a little bit dancier, it was more interesting. Chef Carl had already walked off, the stage. He'd already left the restaurant, and then he came back in and was like flipping out, right? Those people wanted excitement. They wanted something edgy. And even though Chef Carl Casper didn't deliver it in his food, he sure delivered it in his performance or his big meltdown, right? What do you think about? I don't. This is an aside thing. What do you think about Reva's plan to serve the same thing to the packed house? And Mars, feel free to jump in. I had thought perhaps that it was a little short sighted on his part. He was just there to feed the people the same food, and even though it was a packed house, he was going to feed them the same food because they were there. That's what we're going to feed them. And I felt like he had an opportunity to get all these new customers in his door and then to retain them. But if they were all there watching the poor review of the lava cake and then that's what they're served, are they going to come back to that place? I just thought that perhaps he had an opportunity to really engage and broaden his customer base and really get some excitement and, some buzz around his restaurant. And the only thing I can think of is that maybe he didn't want that. Maybe he was more happy with the people coming for Friday night, lava cake. Maybe that's what he wanted instead of the new kind of exciting, more, full house type of jittery people. And I'm thinking about one lady, and she was wearing like a sheath dress, and she was very dynamic as she was waiting that second night. And those are not typically the people you would see in a restaurant like Riva's. And he lost that opportunity to broaden his customer base unless he just didn't want that type of customer in there, although that wasn't what he was conveying in that moment. So I just thought that on Riva, the restaurateur owner's part, that perhaps he had missed a huge piece, a huge opportunity there. Let's see what else we got to say. Oh, okay. Here's one thing as business owners or people that work in, entrepreneurs, or we're in a relationship business, and let's just define that. So when we're with our clients, it's like a one-on-one experience. And so our clients get to know us a little bit, they know our touch, and they can tell if they like us or not, similar to doing hair or that type of thing, right? So there's a connectivity. It's different from somebody who's like kind of far removed, like, the I'm thinking of the what is it called when you're the head of a college or you're the CEO of a company or something like that. Our customers really know us, and there's a lot of one-on-one interaction. Um, it's important that when we represent our social media, that if we have clients in our social media sphere, that we never ever do something called growing up in public. And that's a term I've borrowed from AA, quite frankly. Here, let me have a little drink of not alcohol. Thanks. Growing up in public means that you've kind of let it all hang out and people can see, you're not doing well, or like you'll see people maybe post on social media like really whiny things or really kind of upsetting, oh, why does it happen to me, or stuff like that. Here's the deal: if you're in the service industry and you have any clients on your social media feeds, forget it. You cannot, the luxury of being negative and growing up in public is not afforded to you. You have got to be uber professional, upbeat, engaged, promising, still be yourself, but you can't say, the details of your nasty divorce, what an asshole that person is, or anything like that. It's very much, you are still professional even on your social media stuff. Some people go around that by having a private social media page just for friends and family. Other people have it so that they don't accept people who aren't their friends and family. Like for Facebook, they'll have a professional page that they direct people to. But on Twitter, since you are the brand, you are the practitioner, you are the therapist, you are whatever you're delivering, it's not acceptable to grow up in public. And so when Chef Carl Casper blows his gasket and says stuff like, you're just like fucking with me, and you ruin people's lives and all this stuff. Those people in the restaurant were like, oh, none of them were like, oh, dude, he's having a bad day. We should no. They all had their phones out for the big juicy detail. And so, as professionals and entrepreneurs and body workers, especially, we can't. We have to be above board the whole time, and we have to deliver that connection through high service and open heartedness and whatever your personality traits are, but not by flipping your shit in the restaurant. When I used to teach at HCC, there was a kid. I forget his name. Maybe it was De Niro. Well, that's interesting. Just like this movie. If you're watching right now, hey De Niro. And he'd gotten in a bar fight the night before. So I saw him come to school and he had a black eye. And I was like, what happened? And he goes, I got in a fight with some guy. And I was like, you can't do that ever again. He goes, and he kind of took the attitude of, well, you can't tell me what to do. I'm like, no, no, it's not that I'm telling you what to do. Is that what if the next person who comes in to see you is this guy's mother? And you don't know, you're working at Massage Envy or Massage Heights or the Houstonian or something, and somebody's mom comes in and then she recognizes you from some type of social media or something, or asks you how you got in a fight, and it turns out you got in a fight with their son. You can't ever do that. You have to be above board and, keep it chill even in public. I remember one time when I was first becoming a body worker, somebody was driving really slow in front of me. I was like, what the fuck? And I passed him, and it was one of my clients who was on chemotherapy. And then later she's like, what was going on, Rowan? Why were you so honking and stuff? And I couldn't tell her, like, you're the worst driver ever. But that's what told me, like, I needed to slow my roll. I needed to behave professionally, both in public and then also on social media, right? So if you have a strong opinion about something, that's okay to share with your friends, but don't post something on your social media pages that may infringe with the rest of your clientele, especially if it's like a hot button topic. And I'm not saying don't be who you are. Like for real, there's certain political demographics or personal, belief systems that aren't a fit for clients to work with me. But I would just always encourage you to rise above and try and be your highest self. Okay. Um, I got to tell you, a recent election, like I knew that the next day I had to like just sit down and chill and relax and not see clients that day because I knew that I was upset. I knew that I had clients coming in with a real different political view than I do, and I just wanted to be very professional. And the most professional thing I could do right then was to cancel my appointments and reschedule with them, as opposed to having poor service and just really hating and just being like full of angst. So sometimes you have to make hard decisions about how to keep yourself safe and taken care of, but at the same time, maintain and take care of your profession at the same time. I think I talked about that enough. Okay. So that was growing up in public and how many people documented his meltdown. Twitterverse hits again. That's exactly. Everybody was there watching. And remember that then he talked to the publicity agent that his wife had, or his ex-wife had, and he was totally wigged out by her. She's like, "No, we can use this. We can use this. This is good. This is good." And that made me wonder how many different meltdowns that we see, perhaps of celebrities and stuff. How much of that is staged to keep them in the publicity eye? It's kind of eye-opening. Okay, let's talk about the truck. The truck. A lot of times you get a nasty, disgusting truck like that, and you make a go at it with truck. So I thought it was great when he was cleaning and he was getting it together and decided that he was going to go for it. He was going to do sandwiches, and that was his jam. And it was really nice. And it was especially nice to see John Leguizamo, the chef, be like, "Now you're being who you are. That's right. I'm right here with you, man. Like, what else were we going to do?" And John Leguizamo. I forget his name in the movie, decided that, a chef following his passion, that he was there. They were going to do it together, and they had a good time, and it was fun, and it was teamwork. And that's, I think, what we all think of when we're considering doing entrepreneurial work to begin with. The truck. Okay, so I want to talk about when you decide that you're going to do one specific thing and do it super well. We call that, in the teaching work that I do, the blue ocean offering. And I learned that from one of my teachers, which is Marie Forleo, marieforleo.com. Sign up. She does wonderful, wonderful little TV shows every Tuesday, and they're about 5 minutes, and they're great. I'm going to put it in the chat box. More Marie Forleo.com. Yourself a favor, sign up for her newsletter. But she taught me that a blue ocean offering is when, instead of competing with everybody else, you decide what you're super good at, and you decide that you're going to get people who love what you're doing, that one super good thing, and you're going to base your whole customer right on that. That's your jam. And that's what he does with his Cubano sandwiches, right? He decides that that's what he's going to do. He's going to do it well. Even when him and Percy and himself were buying equipment, they didn't buy like, well, let's get a broccoli shredder and let's maybe make coleslaw. They were like, no, we're going to get the sandwich makers. We're going to get those panini type of job makers. And he bought exactly what he needed to do. He invested so that he could do whatever his blue ocean offering is with the sandwiches. And I want to really just say that that's important. If you as a body worker decide, uh, if you as a body worker decide that you, like, I'm a prenatal massage therapist, and I help people work on going into labor, and I also help them with healing their scars. That's my jam. That's what I could do all day long. I'm a mind abdominal massage therapist, and that's what I love. So when people, for some reason, like my business must be listed somewhere on a website that came up, because I've had like 4 guys call me at 9 o'clock at night in the last week going, is this the massage therapist? And I always just cheerfully say, yep, I'm a massage therapist for pregnant ladies, because I'm not about like, oh, well, maybe I could get this guy in or whatever. I'm not the girl for them. I'm not the body worker for them. So no, I know exactly what I want to work in, and those are the people I go for. One of my teachers, also named Chuck Blakeman, chuckblakeman.com. He also has a, like, I think it's every 3 or 4 weeks he does a newsletter. But Chuck Blakeman said that if you decide that, when you ask somebody, like, what kind of body work client do you want to have? And they're like, well, just anybody who comes in. I'll just, work on whatever. I'm not going to limit myself. That's like a fisherman if you said, what kind of fish do you want to catch? And they'll be like, well, I'm not going to limit myself. I'm just going to, grab this pole here. No, no, dude, you need to get the tools you need for the fish that you want. This guy wanted people who loved awesome Cuban sandwiches, so he got exactly what he needed. He has like a fun truck, he's got the fun music, he's got the fun like kind of atmosphere. He has a Hispanic, employee that's his jam. He even has El Jefe written on his, he obviously connected, he had a Latin ex-wife that, felt so connected to that community. And so that was what he was offering, and it felt good to him. That was his blue ocean offering, right? So if you asked a fisherman, what kind of fish you want to get? And they're like, well, I want kind of, no, Chef Carl Casper had exactly the tools that he needed, just like a fisherman needs. If that's a deep sea fisherman, then they need the log thing. They need to go out on a boat. They need like a net, somebody else to drive it. I don't know. If you want catfish, get yourself a cane pole and a bobber. But you don't take a cane pole and a bobber out into deep sea fish and hope that, a deep sea situation, and hope that you catch any fish. Blue ocean offering, what is it that you offer the best? What is that makes you the happiest? And then get the equipment, get the techniques, get the learning, whatever, to make that happen. Okay, and I'm going to do another video on blue ocean offerings at a different point. Okay, so I was like really pumped. Oh, Marcy has brought up that one of the great things that he talked about with his son was the work ethic. And oh, after he threw the pan out. Okay, so at one point there's like a fathering piece where Chef Carl Caspers realizes that he's like pushing on his son too hard, right? He's a kid and he's doing his best and stuff. and that he wanted him to like not throw this pan out, and it was just an intense situation. So I think that was good, seeing that there's a lot of hard work to make stuff happen, right? And the other really good situation that was in the movie was when he talked to his son about work ethic. Like, even if it's for free, how many times have we had people say, well, do you want to practice on me? And we've just kind of like, oh, okay, fine. Especially when you first start, you're just kind of trying to get through it, get through your internship or whatever. And your product always has to be super good. Maybe that's what I'm talking about when I had to cancel that day recently, is I knew that my work would not be very good, and I wanted my work to be excellent, so it was proactive to take care of myself. And so, just like Percy had to throw some sandwiches away, that would have been better to do that than to serve them. It's okay to lose a little product as we fine tune our art. There's a teacher named Seth Godin who wrote this book, the the War of Art. I forget what he called it, but Seth Godin, so Godin, is a super good person to follow too. He writes a little newsletter like every day. It's only about a paragraph and a half, but he's written lots of books, and I listen to those in the car, and those are super helpful. But one of the things he says, it's okay to polish your art. It's okay to have an offering, to have something that you're putting out there, and it's okay to screw it up a little bit as you figure out how to make it perfect. This is one of my first CEU webinars, and it's not as polished as I'll get it to be, but you've got to start somewhere and keep it rolling, right? So it's okay to get it out there. It's okay to mess up, and it's okay to like, okay, we're going to throw that away, but keep working on it. So just like Percy, even though they're free, it doesn't matter. Let's have a high quality all the way through. And that was one thing that the chef really explained and role modeled that all the way. Okay. What did Percy include in his tweets for at Chef Carl Casper? What was ooh, excuse me, let me get a little more of this here. Percy's whole feel when he was doing the tweets for his dad was collaborative with people. So remember when actually Carl was tweeting to the blogger, it was like really combative, it was really viral, it was very intense, right? But when Percy was doing the work, it was like more inviting, he was kind of announcing, it was fun, lighthearted, more pictures. And then he did this one critical thing. He did something called geotagging, okay? And so I want to say that geotagging is when you tweet, you say where the action is. And this is really important for a mobile service. So if you are a mobile massage therapist doing chair massage, you are going to want to tweet to your people, hey, this is where I'm at right now. And you're always going to include your location and a picture if possible. Okay. And the geotagging, a lot of the social media sites have the location based marketing, which is what geotagging is involved in. Location based marketing is served by a platform called Foursquare a lot of times. And that's a social media of like, if you get on where you're sitting right now, Foursquare was one of the first of them. If you get on your phone and you say, like, or around me or things like that, help you see what kind of businesses or kind of things are going on around you, right? So when Percy was tweeting, he was including where they were located. So other people who were Twitter aficionados, people who followed on Twitter, knew where he was. That's how all those people found him in New Orleans, because he just tweeted that and then went and spent some time with his dad. And then he came back and there was this huge line. Why? Because Percy had tagged where they were. So other people who are vacationing and in somebody place in like New Orleans where a lot of vacationer goes or tourist industry, they had some money, they were there, they wanted to do something fun, and a food truck delivered all of that. And I just wanted to say that Percy felt not combative. It's important when you're doing social media or Twitter. Like even today, somebody wrote me a note on Facebook and said, "Oh, I hope that you didn't feel like I was being, a jerk to you because they'd responded to something that I'd said." And I was like, "Oh no, I didn't feel that way at all." And she goes, "Well, it's just hard to tell over text," and that's totally true. So Percy, and we can tell that Chef Carl Casper, when he said like you wouldn't know a good meal if it sat on your face, clearly that's antagonistic, right? But all of Percy's little texts were like, this is where we're at, and had a little picture, had a little geotag, and let people know where he was at, and it was more inviting. It was more of a dialogue. It was collaborative. And I think that showed in the response that he got. right? So the followers went from less like, "Hey, look at what a meltdown Chef Carl Casper's having," to like, "Hey, I just bought this sandwich right here." Like even that one cop was like, "Can we take a bunch of pictures together?" And you're like, oh, "Okay, okay." Um, and I think it's just because he was excited, he felt quasi famous, and then those went out also viral. Um, when the food blogger, and Chef Carl Casper are talking near the end of the movie, the blogger says, "I thought that was just theater. I thought we were just, going back and forth. I thought it was theater." And so this lets me know too that Chef Carl Casper was taking things so personally that he didn't even realize that of course this guy was going to blow this up and make it overblown and stuff, because that's how he gets his money as a food blogger, people reading his stuff, right? So there was a like Chef Carl Casper was there to like get food into the hands of the people, and not realizing that the food blogger had a completely different market than he did. So that was a piece that I wanted to bring up, that the food blogger didn't take it personally, and he was like, of course I'm flaming stuff and having a good time with it, on some level, where Chef Carl Casper was not having a good time with any of it at all. um so when the design of the truck, was there anything, and Marcy, do you have anything that you would have done different for marketing the truck? I had a couple ideas, but I'm going to wait and see if you have anything, so just write something in the chat box. And I wanted to say, how do you pick a social media platform to rock? Because there are so many of them, right? How do you decide which social media platform is the right one for you to work with? Because here's the deal: if you try and do all the social media platforms, forget it. Forget it. You will never master them all. You'll be the jack of all trades, master of none. Okay, so it's, in my opinion, better to find a couple of social media avenues that you really like and you can really rock. But how do you know which ones to really put your interest in? How do you know which ones to jam? Not seeing Marcy come back with anything, not seeing anything from my audience. The decision is like, who pays for the services? That's the social media that you should jam. So if you're like, let's see, one of my businesses is hooping, right? So and that's pretty visual, so we do a lot of that on Instagram, a lot of pictures, a lot of fun stuff, and we have a Facebook page, but I think our Instagram following is way bigger than the Facebook page. It's punkrockhoops.com, punkrockhoops.com, and on Instagram, punkrockhoops, on Twitter, punkrockhoops, on it goes. But we do most of our work through Instagram because that's where our hoopers are, and that's where people who buy hoops, and that's where the customers are, right? How about for massage? I have a Facebook page at Urban Curandera, a professional Urban Curandera page, and I don't know, I have about 1,000 people on there. It's not super robust. Seem to get more traction on my personal Facebook page than anywhere. And Instagram is not strong at all. But I'm not putting lots of pictures of C-section scars up either. Although I will say on Instagram, I have started Placenta Tuesday, which is the pound sign and then Placenta Tuesday, and it hasn't really taken off. I wonder why. Oh, the food truck needed a rocking website. It sure did. And it would have been great. That's from Marcy. It would have been great if it had been, put on the truck about 73 different places. Here's your here's the an active Facebook page, yeah. If it had, www.chefcarlcasper, what was the name of it? I was like El Jefe's Sandwiches or something .com. It would have been great if that Facebook page had, or the website had an Instagram feed and encourage people to take pictures with the food truck. That would have been great, and they could have suggested some hashtags on the side of the truck. Have a hashtag. I ate with the chef, or I ate with the Jefe, or El Jefe made me a sandwich or something like that. So people could put that in as a hashtag, and that would start to aggregate the different pictures. It would have been good, if I thought, if they had like a picture like frame, and then it should show people like have a profile eating a sandwich with a hashtag written above their head, and then the website on there. That would have been great. So if it had directed people to a place on the truck to take their pictures with a suggested hashtag, and above the hashtag have the hashtag written here, and then above it also have it written the website. That would have been great because that would have sent that all over the place. That would have been really good for that too. Oh, Percy had a little 1 second video that was wonderful. That was wonderful. And kids are good at that type of stuff, and people have time to sit there and look at their screens. So, oh, it was El Jefes Cubanos. So that would have been, and that's a unusual enough name that that's probably not taken as a URL, which is what people call a web address. Okay, so I would have souped up the truck a little bit because everywhere you went, driving around, that could have been the website, and then people could have seen, oh yeah, where the where you're going to stop next or what's on your menu. They could even, tweet you if you had your hashtag, the Twitter hashtag on there, or the Twitter handle on there. People could have tweeted you where you going next, that type of stuff. Because people like that with the food truck, the mobility, the interaction, the connectivity. Just like body workers, they like the connectivity and really knowing their practitioner. I want to just make sure that we have all our terms handled here. Okay, so a handle is your social media name, and that has the ampersand sign in front of it. Twitter is a social media platform. Real time is that things as people post it, it goes on. Like if you want to watch something, like when there was all the civil unrest in Egypt, I watched all that on Twitter to see what was going on. Okay. When there was stuff going on politically in Austin about a year ago, I was watching all that go down on Twitter. So it's real time as people are tweeting and it's out there. Boom. And so just like when you would see Percy say, "Oh, I just tweeted it," that's it real time means that it goes out right then. It's not scheduled. It's not delayed. You don't see it 3 days later. It's like boom, you put it out there, and just like you put it out there, you can't ever get it back. Okay, geotagging, that you're tagged your location. And location based marketing is when you're telling people where you're at. And a check in, oh, here's not something we didn't say. The check ins have evolved, I think, after this movie was the original story happened, is that you could put a thing out inviting your customers to check in of like, oh, I've arrived here, I'm doing something here, and that puts that out on their social media sites, and that's like free advertising. When clients come to see me and they check in at Urban Curandera, they're telling all their friends that they trust me enough to be their body worker. Whoa, yes, yes, and gives those people information on how to contact me by that check in. That's awesome. So we really want to check in, and that would have been great on the truck too. And growing up in public, which is when you do something real stupid and real public, and then everybody else can see it and watch your learning curve. And really, let's give ourselves more privacy. A lot of times, you'll hear people say, "I'm so glad that there wasn't social media when I was a kid." And I'm totally one of those because I do stupid stuff all the time. I did stupid stuff yesterday. I don't need that documented. I need to learn and grow and have that for myself. So that's what growing up in public is. Oh, Marcy's brought up a good point that a lot of times with Foursquare, when you check in, there's discounts that you can get a discount for something. So people will say, hey, if you check in at my site, say for massage, if you check in, I give away these little baby hats for people who are, because they're pregnant. So I could say, free baby hat with check in. So that invites people to check in at my space. And then also they get something in return. So it's a win win for everybody. I like that a lot. That's a great idea, Marcy. I think that's all the things I have on my list. I had 18 points that we went over, and this will be on a handout for you, a worksheet. So if you want to watch the movie and do the handout, then you'll know the answers to the quiz. Because we want to sneeze, maybe not. Okay, then the cheat sheet is how you know the answers on the quiz, and the last couple of questions on the quiz are what's your name, what part of Texas are you working in, and a way to, I think, provide funds and your license number so that I can get you your certificate. And then we'll be all set, and you'll have done 3 hours of CEUs towards your 12 that you have to do every 2 years. And what a fun way to do a CEU by watching somebody else grow up in public and knowing exactly what to do or not to do. And of course, I'm excited and pumped to be offering these CEUs like this. I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. There's a little button, subscribe, and find me on Twitter, find me on Instagram, find me on Facebook. It's all at urbancurandera.com. And one thing I'm really passionate about is business. So if there's a way that I can help you with your business, I'm totally down. I'm totally down. And I want to give a big shout out to my friend Marcy for joining me on this webinar as I learn how to do these and navigate the software and to give her good feedback. And Marcy is also a massage therapist here in Houston, Texas. And she is a massage therapy educator at a couple of different places. And I just feel really blessed. And I completely believe that the more you open up your heart and love and do your very best work at all times, it's going to come straight back to you. Thanks, everybody.